There's never a dull moment in the world of V8 supercar racing, and today has been no exception. Overnight drama, some chaos, some rules, and we're going to try and explain it too over the course of the next 12 laps here at the Formula One Rolex Australian Grand Prix. It's the fourth and final race of the MSS Security V8 Supercar Challenge. Richard Crabb, Jack Perkins with you for this 12-lapper. Fabian Coulthard and Jason Bright. If there's been one constant this weekend, Jack, it's been that the two Brad Jones racing cars have been very, very speedy.
Yeah, it's great to see Brad Jones racing on the front row of the grid with Will Davis and David Reynolds on the second row of the grid. James Moffat, the first of the brand new manufacturers in that Norton 360 Nissan Altima. James Courtney, the first of the HRT runners in 6. Scott McLaughlin doing a great job in his rookie season. Rick Kelly, Craig Lowndes and Russell Ingall rounding out the top 10.
As we run through the remainder of the grid, there are some housekeeping issues to touch on. Now, if you weren't with us before, 8 cars overnight have been excluded from yesterday's results due to an engine timing issue. Now, it's not a performance-generating issue, so it's not like they were going out and cheating their way towards the front of the field, Jack, but this was a technical issue overnight that has been picked up. They've been penalised for that, and things reset overnight.
It's not a new rule to the category. Unfortunately, this year they've got a brand new, as part of the Car of the Future regulations, a brand new Motec ECU. And look, it's just a little oversight from whoever does the engine management in the various teams that were done. It's done and dusted now. No one can do anything about it. It wasn't like they had 500 extra horsepower and a better car. So they've been excluded from yesterday's race, and it's a shame for those guys, but onwards and upwards today.
Well, 2 of the affected cars were from Red Bull Racing Australia. We can go down to pit lane, catch up with Ian Shuttleworth and the team boss, Roland Dane.
Well, it's been an eventful 24 hours in the V8 scene. And Roland Dane, can you just talk us through what's happened with both your cars out of yesterday's race?
Yeah, we're outside the rule on the ignition timing for both our cars in race 3 yesterday, so we've been excluded from that result. It's a technicality, but the rule's black and white. It doesn't make any difference on the day, but it's black and white, and we're outside the rules, so we've been excluded.
You're not the only team to be caught up in this, I suppose, but in the bigger picture, it's a non-championship points round, so that does make it a little easier to handle and cop, I suppose.
Maybe, but it's pretty annoying that we've transgressed like that. I think there's another 6 cars on top of us as well, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just a mistake. It's a stupid mistake, and it's a shame because I think Craig was in with a shout of 3rd or 2nd overall for the weekend.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So Fabian Coulthard right of screen, the red and black Lockwood Racing Commodore, his teammate Jason Bright from the Albury-based Brad Jones Racing alongside for Team BOC. Red lights on, and they're off, and so are the 28 V8 Supercars. It's a good start from Will Davison, an even better one from David Reynolds. The Bottle Racing Ford erupts from the 2nd row, goes down the inside, and he'll be second into turn 1. But as he did in race 1 and 2, it's Coulthard leading. Russell Ingall turned around. The field take evasive action. Mark Winterbottom involved there.
Good job from Russ there. He let the car roll back and got out of everyone's way. It looked like Alex Davison may have been involved in that, and someone else. They tried to go 3 into 1. It doesn't work. We look down now, turn 3. This is normally where there's a little bit of accident damage, and it looks like they got it all out of their system at turn 1.
We'll keep an eye on where some of the speedy cars are coming through the field, including Van Gisbergen, Lowndes and Whincup, and Jonathan Webb, who was 3rd yesterday in pretty impressive perform. Those Techno cars from the Queensland-based Techno Autosport team were hooked up, but they've got some work to do.
Great start from David Reynolds there from the 2nd row of the grid. It actually looked like Fabian Coulthard bogged it down, but the secondary part of that start was great, but it was David Reynolds who jumped the front row and got into 2nd position behind Fabian. We look down the pack. Looks like a bit of smoke coming from the front of Mark Winterbottom's car. I'd suggest he was involved in that first corner incident with Russell Ingall.
He was, so lots of damage there to the Pepsi Max crew. FPR Ford, they've gained that sponsorship this year on both cars. Will Davison up in 3rd place at the moment. News through from the Holden Racing team, James Courtney off the track, reporting smoke in the cabin of car 22. So he's actually had a pretty good weekend. James Courtney was 7th yesterday, a couple of top 10s before it, but he's dropped in the field. That's a shame for JC, the 2010 champion. Here's a look at the start. The key will be turn 1. Look at David Reynolds, the green and white Falcon erupted from row 2.
Yeah, and as Jason Bright was a bit of a loser there. He didn't get a great start, and we see smoke coming from Courtney's car. That looks like it's done an engine or an oil line. As we look at the replay now into turn 1, watch Alex Davison up the inside of, I believe it was a Nissan, which then made contact with Russell Ingall sending that super chip auto car run. Let's have another look here. And it was a Nissan sandwich between Alex Davison and Russell Ingall. And there's that front contact. Mark Winterbottom couldn't get out of the way there and had nowhere to go. And look at all that water there in the grass and the AstroTurf. That's going to cause a bit of trouble for the competitors today.
Nissan taking out our camera there on the exit of turn 2. That's a little bit rude. So, Fabian Coulthard dicing with Reynolds. Turn 3, and what a return to form this has been for the 55 Bottle racing car. Really tough opening round of the championship, but it's been a case of chipping away for Dave this weekend. He's been working his way up the order. Qualified 9th, 3rd, 4th and 8th in the 3 races so far, as half of the field just about pull into pit lane to take their compulsory pit stop. So they are stopping today, Jack. They're getting the stop out of the way nice and early. And
what we've seen there is that this round in particular, because we're a non-championship round, you can't double stack your cars in pit lane. So what we've seen there is 2 car teams. The second of the cars on track have pitted. So we've seen Jason Bright pit, Will Davison pit, James Moffat pit, Rick Kelly pit. Those guys have got their compulsory pit stop out of the way. And we're looking now at the battle between Reynolds and Fabian Coulthard for the lead. Fabian's done a great job all weekend. That Brad Jones Commodore has been in tremendous form. He's been the one to watch in the dry conditions. Probably didn't have the pace he wanted yesterday in the wet, but still managed to come away with that win after the other guys got excluded.
He's got good speed, but we need to keep our eyes skywards as well, because there's just light rain showers coming across Albert Park at the moment, and they're the most difficult conditions for a racing car driver and indeed the team in pit lane to deal with, because you don't know what it's going to be from corner to corner. The grip level is constantly changing.
That's exactly right. These are tough situations for drivers when there's a little bit of light rain or some showers, because the track's not wet enough for wet tyres and it's not dry enough for slicks. As we look at Mark Winterbottom, his day is done. Obviously too much damage to that Pepsi Max Falcon. As we watch a couple more cars come into the pits, that's Jonathan Webb in the white Darrell Lee Commodore coming in from his compulsory pit stop.
New son, Austin, for Mark and Ray Winterbottom recently, so they, as well as the Tanders, expanding their racing families. A couple of second-generation drivers in 10 or 15 years, perhaps.
Look who's in 3rd position here. That's Scott McLaughlin in the Fujitsu Commodore. He's doing an outstanding job for a first-year rookie. He's currently 3rd on the road with great speed as we watch the 888 Red Bull team just service Craig Lowndes with some new tyres, and he'll be back out onto the track.
Yeah, good drive from McLaughlin. Was 24th yesterday, had dramas at the start of the race and spent some time in pit lane, but started on combined points inside the top 10, up to 3rd and a couple of 6th place finishes in the opening races this weekend.
He's got pace here, does Scott. He's caught back up to the rear of David Reynolds and Fabian Coulthard, and this is the battle for the lead. So good to see Scott doing a good job, and I'm also happy to see those Fujitsu cars go well, Richard, because I'll be jumping in one of them later in the year.
Well, Gary Rogers Motorsport, Fujitsu Racing, it's the little team that can. They might not have the financial wherewithal and the massive resources of your 888s or your Holden Racing teams or FPR, but they continue to produce high-quality racing cars, and Gary Rogers always wanted to have a crack at a new driver and give them an opportunity.
And Gary's great like that, gives a lot of young drivers some goes, and both Brad Jones Racing, Gary Rogers Motorsport are non-factory supported teams. They build their own cars. They've got much smaller teams than that of the bigger teams, and to see both those teams performing well here this weekend is an enormous confidence boost heading into the rest of the season. We look back down now. This is the battle between the teams that have already pitted. So we've got one of the Nissans up the inside of Jason Bright, and we also saw one of the FPR cars, Will Davison, up the inside of Craig Lowndes. So this is the 2 races we see. This is the race of the cars that have done their pit stop, and you wouldn't want to be slowing yourself down too much, because that leading group, when they make their pit stop, they could potentially come out in front.
Lowndes had a pretty good stop, but Davison's got pace in car number 6. He's been solid this weekend, but unspectacular. They really haven't done a massive amount, the FPR cars, but they've always been there in the top 5 or 6 on pace. So they really are flying the lone Ford flag this season for Performance Racing with their 4 cars.
It's one of those deals, you know, we've got 28 brand new cars this year, and I wouldn't mind betting a lot of teams are trying some new things with that independent rear end, the brand new transaxle gearbox made by Albans just up the road in Ballarat. The teams have done a fantastic job. A lot of man-hours have gone into building these brand new cars, and we welcome with open arms Nissan and Mercedes-Benz, the new manufacturers. It's been a Holden Ford dogfight for nearly 20 years, and it's fantastic that the new car of the future regulations, or the car of now, have brought those new manufacturers in. So we see Scott McLaughlin, Alex Davison and Lee Holdsworth in one of those Mercedes-Benz. They've come back in after their pit stop, and it looks like Scott McLaughlin will get in front of those guys.
Let's go down to pit lane. Shuts with Russell Ingall.
Well, Russell, just give us some insight into how that unfolded.
Yeah, got a really good start around the outside, and you know, so far everyone's been pretty good here, but I got a pretty severe hit up the backside. And as I was going around, I saw Alex Davis's car right behind me, so he's regularly known for running out of talent. But I'll wait till I see the replay, and if it was him, I'll nail him back towards the end of the year. But if it wasn't, well, then that's just racing. But a bit of a shame, you know. We had a pretty good car, I think, for this last race, and I think we all got up there. But anyway, that's life, and luckily non-championship race. But we'll see how things go for the rest of the year.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
There and do some enforcing, mate. We need Russ back out there to do his role as enforcer, but we look now. This is a replay. Johnny Reid coming out of the pits with a left front lock tyre. That's cold tyres, so a learning experience this year for Johnny Reid as he passes his teammate Tim Blanchard.
Yeah, I caught up with Johnny on Friday, and they're just working through the ropes with those two brand new Dick Johnson Racing FG Fords. They got no pre-season testing time. Clipsal was just a massive learning experience for them. It was all about getting lap times, and they're still there. But Johnny, who's been a front runner in Carrera Cup and he's raced open wheelers internationally, said, man, it's frustrating because I'm a racing car driver and all I want to do is race, but we've just got to bide our time and we'll get there as the season goes on. Battle on your screen is between a group of cars that stopped last lap and a group that stopped early on. Scott McLaughlin came out in front of Craig Lowndes. Alex Davison was released right into the thick of that battle too, so we still wait for the 9 cars yet to stop, including our leader Fabian Coulthard, David Reynolds, David Wall up to 3rd in the 21 Wilson security car, Jamie Whincup 4th, Tander Caruso, Van Gisbergen 7th, Scott Pye in 8th, and Dalberto 9th. They have yet to make a pit stop. Scott McLaughlin is the first car yet to stop. He's 50 seconds behind the outright leader, and that's about the time to transit pit lane, get the stop done and leave. So it's going to be very close. That's what I'm saying. When he comes out, it's going to be close in a battle for the lead with Fabian Coulthard.
On screen, we've got the Davison brothers, Will and Alex, both FPR cars, the Pepsi Mac car driven by Will, and Alex in the customer car, the 4th car.
This battle continues to heat up here at Albert Park. The brothers are battling at the front of the V8 Supercar field. Lap 5 of 12, long way to go, and the final pit stop still to come. It's the big question, can Mark Webber make history this afternoon at Albert Park? Welcome back to our live coverage of the Formula One Rolex Australian Grand Prix. Cracking V8 Supercar race underway at the moment. The pit stops are shuffling themselves out. David Reynolds was the effective leader. He pitted. He has come out in the thick of traffic behind Fabian Coulthard, Craig Lowndes and Scott McLaughlin, who could be the driver in a key position to win this race, Jack Perkins.
And I'll tell you what's actually happened here is when the pit stops have happened, for those who have taken the pit stops later on in the race, their outlaps have hurt them severely because they come out of the pits, as we see Jonathan Webb stop. Those guys out of their pit stops, they've come out of the track, back onto the track, 4 cold tyres. And we've got a replay here, Fabian Coulthard running off on those cold tyres, and we should see Scott McLaughlin in that Fujitsu Commodore sneak through.
Okay, we heard James Courtney out of the race early on. He's down in the lane with Ian Shuttleworth.
Well, James Courtney, your race ended pretty quickly. You were reporting smoke in the cabin very early on, not long after the start.
Yeah, straight away when we left the grid, I reported something wasn't feeling right. A bit of smoke coming into the cabin, then the last part of the formation lap, it got really greasy in the rear, and then as I launched off the line, it sprayed oil everywhere. So we think maybe a line's broken or a cooler or something. So we won't know till we get it back, but it's a long way to come and sit around today to do nothing. So a little bit disappointing, but yeah, at least it's not going to affect our championship. So it's one positive.
Sounds hard to say, but maybe enjoy some downtime.
Yeah, I'll go and have a few glasses of red tonight and get ready for Tassie.
Good man, thanks for your time.
Cheers.
Thanks, Shuts. Disappointed philosophical James Courtney in the Holden Racing Team bunker. They've got some work to do this year. They are not the fastest Holdens in a field that at the moment is dominated by them. Shane Van Gisbergen makes his stop. David Wall makes his stop. The order shuffling itself out. The final few cars coming through pit lane to complete their compulsory pit stops. And we'll get the combined race order when everyone's finished to you. But You were saying, Jack, that the guys that have left it late to pit are being penalised here, aren't they?
Yeah, what we've seen is Craig Lowndes and Scott McLaughlin and a few others pit early, get onto their soft tyre, punch in a lot of good lap times in clear traffic, and when the other competitors, Fabian Coulthard, David Reynolds, when they came out of the pits, they were in traffic. A lot of, when they're on cold tyres straight out of the pits, you lose a lot of time. Scott McLaughlin's just put 3 of the fastest laps of the race together, and it's enabled him to inherit the effective race lead.
Yeah, we saw that with Fabian Coulthard, who actually on his outlap ran wide at turn 3. So that's what cost him the effective lead of the race. This is a look back at David Wall's pit stop. Wasn't a particularly fast one.
No, there's a problem with the right rear of the wheel going on. The wheel nut wouldn't go on, so they had to grab the spare wheel. And you might have noticed there that the SP guys were servicing that car. That's the third car from Brad Jones and the third car from Erebus. They share pit crew, so it's not like they intentionally, stuffed up someone else's car or they weren't working on it by design. They share pit crew, and unfortunately, there was a problem with the wheel nut there for David Wall.
So Fabian Coulthard chasing down Craig Lowndes.
What a moment for Scott McLaughlin. He's the effective race leader. It's his second only V8 Supercar start in his first year of full-time driving. He's still a teenager. And, man, I don't know if they've told him on the radio yet, but he is the effective race leader. He's currently 8th on the road with 7 competitors in front still to stop. And by our calculations, he'll come out leading the race.
I think that timing monitor's got to update itself, actually, because Dave Reynolds is running 4th in this line. He was leading earlier on, but so McLaughlin will be the effective leader. But the key here, I think, for Fabian Coulthard is to get past Craig Lowndes, because Fabian has been the fastest driver on the soft tyre all weekend long, and he's shown already this weekend if he can get clear racetrack in front, he's been able to close in that margin for the lead, and he's passed for the lead twice in 2 races this weekend. So if he can get past Craig Lowndes, he may well be able to have a shot. Lap 7 of 12, so really only just past the halfway mark. Still plenty of racing to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Those BJR cars have been really quick this weekend. As we're watching now down the pack, we've got Jamie Whincup and Jason Bright in the second of the BJR cars. Jamie Whincup really hasn't had the speed he would have liked this weekend. Doubled with a couple of mistakes there with the exclusion from yesterday's race. Bit of a shame for the team, but look, a learning weekend, only the second weekend with these brand new cars and not a championship round, so they'll be just learning a few things with their next round of the championship coming up in a few weeks' time.
James Moffat in behind Jason Bright, the Team BOC racer. Bit of a strange old weekend for Brighty, hasn't it? He's had plenty of speed, but hasn't been able to translate.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just one of those weekends, I guess. With the wet race yesterday, threw a spanner in the works for all the teams and their tyre strategies and their various plans. But we've got the battle now for second and third. Like you said, Fabian Coulthard, he has had pace all weekend. We saw in the first race on Friday, he came from 4th on the road after a safety car drama to get back into the lead. So he's got pace to burn. He's got a good car and a good team. And like we said at the top of the race, they're not a factory team. They're a small team from Albury. And they've had the front row of the grid for a couple of races this weekend. So Brad and Kim Jones, take your hat off. You've had an excellent performance thus far this weekend.
Michael Caruso in the Norton 360 Racing Nissan Altima, the only driver not to stop. So McLaughlin, the effective leader. Lowndes will be second. Coulthard third. Reynolds fourth. Alex Davison fifth. Todd Kelly sixth. Then Will Davison, Jason Bright and Jamie Whincup. But this will be the battle for second on the road between Coulthard and Lowndes, with Reynolds watching on back in 4th place. So nice to see Davey Reynolds back at the front of the field. He was so good last year. FPR's taken a while to dial in their car of the future, and Reynolds struggled at the Clipsal 500, the opening round of the points-paying championship, this being a non-championship exhibition round. But I think V8 is always the better when that guy's at the front. He's such a character and one of the sport's great names for the future.
Yeah, it is. It's great to have new names. We see Scott McLaughlin up the front. Fabian Coulthard, he's not a new name, but it's good to see him mixing it with Craig Lowndes and David Reynolds. You touched on FPR. They came out the box, everyone expected probably a little more from them. They were the first team to have all their new cars built. They actually had them built before Christmas, so they did an excellent job. But they just struggled a little bit, to be honest. We saw the Shane Van Gisbergen team quite strong in the opening round, and they run Triple 8 customer cars. So Triple 8's still one of the form teams, and a lot of other teams up and down pit lane using Triple 8 components.
And Supercars in recent years has moved away from the round format results, where a combination of 2, 3 or 4 races decides the winner for the weekend. But this weekend is like that, and if they finish the way they run, Fabian Coulthard will win the round on points. So that would be a huge thing for Brad Jones Racing. And the small Albury-based team punching above their weight, but perhaps this new generation of V8 Supercar helping their cause, as it has done for Fujitsu Racing. Scott McLaughlin leading. He's the reigning Dunlop Series champion, the development series of V8 Supercars. He won in New Zealand in the NZ V8 Super Tours, and you raced against him in that series as well, Jack. Co-driving with Greg Murphy, another of the legends of the sport, and he showed what he was capable of there, and ever since he's jumped into this car for Gary Rogers Motorsport, he has been so fast.
Exactly right. Now, Scott is definitely an undisputed talent. And one other thing we spoke about in one of our other telecasters, young Scotty and I were actually the official car of the future test drivers for V8 Supercars, and I'm sure he's carried on a few of those pointers that we learnt in that whole testing phase a couple of years ago. But this is a heated up little battle back there between Fabian and Craig Lansbury. We look at Tony D'Alberto lock the rears, trying to get a passing move on Scott Pye, and a little venture off the circuit there in that high flex number 3 VF Holden Commodore.
Tony D had a run off at turn 13 yesterday as well, just fired down the escape road. Coulthard continues to attack Lowndes, but Craig well and truly up to the challenge for Red Bull Racing Australia. There's McLaughlin leading the race. Lowndes, Coulthard, and this is bringing Reynolds into the game for second, third and fourth as well. And if these three continue to dice, that's only going to help McLaughlin out in front. And that comment from you before about being one of the test drivers for these cars, that's the sign of a frustrated racing car driver sitting up here in the commentary box. He'd much rather be on the track. He'll be there in September, October in V8 Enduro time and driving a car that at the moment it's on course for a race victory.
It's good still. I played my part in the inauguration of these new cars. It was great to be involved with V8 Supercars. We got to do all the brand new running with the new transaxle gearbox. And like we said, there's a lot of new safety features here. We've got the fuel tank in front of the rear wheels now. We've removed the Larry bar in front of the drivers. We've got rid of the glass windscreen. We've now got a Perspex screen. And a lot of safety features have been implemented from V8 Supercars in this future generation car, which is now the car of now. And this battle for second, third and fourth is heating up with David Reynolds right on the rear of Fabian Coulthard.
So Michael Caruso pits and he hands the race lead over to Scott McLaughlin officially, but it was always going to be that way as they start the final lap. So the Norton 360 Nissan Ultimate Team, Nissan Motorsport, supporting Beyond Blue, the great charity this weekend, running some signage on their cars. Just ran Caruso long, and he'll emerge in 11th place. So on the cusp of the top 10 is teammate James Moffat just up in front. 1 lap to go. McLaughlin, the teenager, leads. Lowndes, the most experienced driver, almost outside of Russell Ingall, in the field, dicing with Fabian Coulthard for second, and Reynolds watching on in third.
Lowndes going a fraction defensive into turn 3 that time. He knows that Fabian's got a little bit more pace on him, and this is the last lap. Anything can happen here. I reckon David Reynolds is in the box seat for a bit of exciting racing here when they got the 2/3 of the lap to go.
Oh, it's always exciting when Davey Reynolds is in the fray for a podium position. Amazing drive at Bathurst last year, remember? That amazing finish with Jamie Whincup and Reynolds trading paint on the last lap of the race. So much to like about where this sport's going and some of the great names emerging. And we're seeing one of them today. He won't win the round overall. He'll be somewhere near the pointy end. It'll be Fabian Coulthard who wins the weekend if he runs where he is right now. But let's look at the race results first, and Scott McLaughlin, who has performed faultlessly. Lowndes just pulling away a little bit in the second half of this last lap at Albert Park.
Looks like the Lowndes just pulled a little buffer over Fabian Coulthard here. Doesn't look like he's close enough to make a move, although the penultimate corner coming up in the second last corner, the 2 big passing opportunities here, looks like he's a little bit too far away, and David Reynolds has got a little bit of a sniff on that Lockwood machine, and he'll try and set him up here. No, I think he's too far away.
This is a remarkable result for V8 Supercar racing, for the sport in general, because the car of the future was about equalising the playing field, but you've got to have the people behind the wheel to do the job, and Scott McLaughlin is one of the rising stars of V8 Supercars. He wins race 4 at Albert Park, and Fabian Coulthard for Brad Jones Racing, it's all new, takes the round victory.
That is an awesome drive from Scott McLaughlin. So good to see a young bloke up there, and how good is that for the car of the future? Great job there from everyone at Gary Rogers Motorsport. That is a fantastic result, and you'd love to be Scott McLaughlin right now.
We confirmed the results for you. Craig Lowndes has been really good this weekend and second, held out Fabian Coulthard in that race. Reynolds fourth, first of the Fords. Alex Davison charged his way through the field to finish fifth, and Jamie Whincup did the same for sixth place. Todd Kelly first of the Nissans. He's been quietly impressive this weekend as Todd, and he was seventh. Will Davison eighth, Shane Van Gisbergen ninth, Jack and James Moffat P10 from further down the field.
Yeah, great job from the new Nissans. Good to see them. A couple of inside the top 10. Jason Bright, 11th. Michael Caruso, 12th. Rick Kelly in another Nissan, 13th. Tim Blanchard, David Wall, Scott Pye, Dean Fiore, Jonathan Reed, Tony D'Alberto, who we saw venture off track, Lee Holdsworth rounding out the top 20.